lifestyle has caught fire, and we talk about the rewards and challenges of it. This is the Wandering Worker Podcast with Matt Lloyd.
Welcome to the Wandering Worker Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Lloyd. The Wandering Worker is powered by Magic Apple Technology, where we've been saving good businesses from bad phone systems since 2008. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home office, a cafe, or exploring a new corner of the world, this podcast is your compass to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of remote work. We'll uncover invaluable insights, share personal stories, and connect with experts who have mastered the art of wandering while working. Today, our guest is Justin Ploof with Mull IT. How are you doing today, Justin?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on. So before we get into everything, we kind of start with just random 5 questions, okay? So question 1, if you could change the color of anything, what would it be?
That's a good one. I'd say there's not enough crystal blue teal water in the world. I say make more water, that perfect beach color.
I like that. That's really good. Yeah, that's a good one. Do you have any apps on your phone that you've never used?
Oh, definitely.
So are you, well, the point I think to this question for me is, are you somebody that always goes through and deletes stuff off? Or do you just let it just grow naturally?
No, I do. I'm one that audits and deletes regularly because I know that a lot of apps will run in the background and drain down your battery. So I try to clear them out whenever I can. Yeah. But there's a couple stragglers. For like that one time I use Uber. Once a year, Uber just stays on there for some reason, you know? Like
I've got one of the new Google Pixel phones, and so it gives you the little thing, hey, these are the apps that you haven't used in the last month. And I look at it, and I'll be able to clear some up, but there's always that one or two that are on there that I'm like, I mean, one day I might use that. And have like a Wi-Fi analyzer. I've had it on there forever, but I won't get rid of it because I don't know, maybe one day I'll use it for something. I don't know.
I use that like weekly. That's a really good one.
I probably used to use it more than I do now. And there's always that option of maybe I'll need it. So I just keep it on there.
Every time I go to a sporting event, like I went to the Nashville SC game a couple weeks ago, I bust open the network analyzer to see what's going on with the Wi-Fi.
Smart.
They had so many wireless access points there. There must have been 200, I bet.
And I bet it's constantly jumping up and down. If it shows you whichever one is enraged and trying to take control of your device, whatever, it's constantly moving. What's the way you find yourself procrastinating the most?
Man, I know they're engineered to do this, but those stupid like TikTok videos these days. I'm not on TikTok. But I am on Facebook for business. And like, I'll jump on Facebook for what should only be a minute to get something done. And then those videos just grab me in.
Kind of head down a rabbit hole with them sometimes.
Yeah. And then like 30 minutes later, I'm like, what did I just do?
I know. I hate that too. I actually took TikTok and all that stuff off just because I could sit there and do this all day long, or this, whichever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a special project you're working on right now? Like a special hobby or project that's something you're working on?
I'm planting a lot of trees right now.
Tell me about that.
It's been really fun. So I live in Creve Hall. Our lots of land are a little bit bigger than the typical, I think, Creve Hall lot.
Sure.
And when we bought the house several years ago, it was a lot of just grass exposed to the sky. It's a lot of land that I don't know what to do with. And so I've been following a couple programs. One was called Roots Nashville. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
They give away 3 free trees to every household once a year.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I signed up for that, and I got 3 trees. And then there's another one called the Nashville Tree Foundation that we just went to one of their events last weekend, and we got, I think, 6 trees from them.
So are we talking saplings? We talking decent-sized trees?
I got like one juniper maple, which is maybe about 2 feet tall, and then I got some like red oaks that were probably already about 8 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
So I've got a big range.
Nice. So are you landscaping it the way you want it, or is it just like we're going to be natural and just start planting them wherever?
I'm not very good with the physical world. I'm more of a digital guy myself, and so I'm really just figuring this all out. I kind of like lined my fence, but also randomly placed them 20 or 30 feet from each other. So I don't know. We'll see how it looks in 20 years.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was the last meltdown you witnessed?
Meltdown?
Meltdown.
Like what do you mean by meltdown?
Just somebody, whether you're at a restaurant or waiting in line at Starbucks or something, you just saw somebody just lose their stuff. And it could have been you losing your stuff. Who knows?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, I don't think I have an answer for that. I can't think of the last time I saw somebody just absolutely melt down.
That's an interesting one, because if you did, you remember.
Maybe traffic, but that's like an everyday occurrence. You just see somebody that just like flips out for some random reason that speeds around.
It's gotten so bad. I think I read something yesterday that Nashville traffic is now like in the top 5 worst cities in the country or something. And it has gotten so much worse, and the horns are way worse than they used to be here.
Yeah, I got flipped the bird maybe a week ago because I kind of messed up on a turn. I thought I was turning right, and then I was wrong. It was the next right, and so I slowed down for the first right. The person went around me, honked, and gave me the bird.
Yeah, I got stuck in Franklin trying to turn, and I can't remember exactly where I was, but instead of going around me, this van was behind me. There was 2 lanes clear. All he had to do was go around me. Decided to get behind me and honked his horn the whole time I was there, giving me the finger. And I was like, you could just go around me, man. There's no traffic. I'm stuck here for, whatever reason. Just go around me. No, he had to sit there and just holler at me forever. So I was like,
I think some people just can't see bigger picture.
They really can't. They're just so narrowed in their little tunnel vision of hate and anger and frustration. They just don't want to open their eyes to anything else.
And they can only see about 30 feet ahead of them on the road. They can't see like that wreck that's coming up in a quarter mile, that you got to slow down ahead of time for.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Exactly right. All right, cool. Timmy, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
My name is Justin Ploof. We are a company with a funny name called Mull IT. Our slogan.
I love the company name.
Thank you so much. Our slogan is your business in the front, our IT solutions in the back, like a good mullet. And I started the business back in 2018 after being an enterprise consultant for about 10 years.
Right.
And I wanted to have fun with the business, right? I come from a very boring IT background where everybody is very just quiet, stays in your lane, like it's just business as usual, right? And when I formed the business, I started looking at the landscape. I was like, man, my competitors are like Network Solution Enterprises and Smith IT, like all these very boring names. Like Magic Apple's a great name, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Because we went through the same thing. I was like, I don't want to be ABC Telecom or whatever. It's like, we need to come up with something a little different. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I realized I was in Nashville too. And I was like, if there's anywhere where I could get away with a mullet, it's probably going to be Nashville.
Absolutely.
And this is pre-COVID. Like the mullets weren't a thing just yet.
Yeah. So like when you started, what was your intention? Like what did you want the business to be? Was it you wanted to go after a certain type of business, or were you looking for a small, medium business? Did you want like what was your idea of focus?
My idea was to help people. It was really, I didn't think too far ahead at that point in time. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to see what people needed help with in the world of IT and how many people I could help. I'll do like a condensed version of my story, but I worked enterprise IT consulting for about 10 years. I got really good at things like Windows 7 enterprise rollouts. Like we roll out several thousand computers over the course of several months to large companies. And with that came like application packaging. I did a bit of software development for a while. There's all these things, but I got very like pigeonholed into specific technologies, which I didn't really love. Mm-hmm. I could see myself doing that for another 30 years with, looking back on my career being like, I wonder if I could have had something more.
Right.
But in 2017, I was helping out a family friend with their small business, and it was awesome. It was something simple. It was just a free email server to a Microsoft 365 email migration, and it was everything that was missing from enterprise consulting. It was fast. It was friendly. I got to see the smiles on the faces of the people I was actually helping.
Right.
And I was like, man, this is everything that I'm missing from my life. I want to lean into this a lot more. Mm-hmm. And from there, I started going around shaking a lot of hands, kissing a lot of babies, just trying to see where I fit into the world of small business IT support. And I found there was this gap. There's the larger IT firms that want to go after a certain size to meet certain margins and have certain like standardizations. But below that, they didn't really know where to turn to. Like some people would go to Geek Squad, some people would go to independent computer shops. A lot of people would turn to their nephew or cousin that one time built a gaming computer.
Right.
And so I found it really, I felt like it was a win-win. Like I got to use my business understanding of technology to help out all these small clients that wouldn't know where to turn to otherwise. I just ran with it. I love helping people, and I've been helping people ever since.
So it sounds like the other thing that might set you apart, do you do a lot of project work as well? That's the other thing that just doesn't happen in Nashville very often. There's not a lot of companies that want to do that project work. What they want is the recurring MSP revenue, and that's all they want to do. And so that's kind of cool. Do you specialize in anything that you feel like you're really good at, that you're maybe better than others at when it comes to that project side of stuff?
Microsoft 365 is a good one. I mean, a lot of people use it these days, but I walk into a lot of implementations of it where they're just missing a lot of really low-hanging fruit in it.
Yeah.
For several years, I pieced together all these best practices from different tutorials, YouTube videos, blog posts to just kind of create the ideal Microsoft 365 environment. Mm-hmm. But now there's a bunch of organizations like CIS. You familiar with them?
I'm not.
The Center for Information Security, or no, Internet Security, sorry. Center for Internet Security. They put out these guidelines and benchmarks.
Okay.
To say, hey, you should have all these things in place to make sure your Microsoft 365 secure, your Google Workspace, your server, your desktop, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's been fun. I get to read through those and I'm like, oh, cool. I got like 80% of this correct.
You can see what they've suggested and make changes, adjusting and accordingly, right?
Yeah. Like the best voices in the world all chimed in together to create these best practices. And like we had it right for years from the get-go. So it's been nice to see that.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Where do you see Mull IT in 5 years?
At the top of a skyscraper, the largest office in all of Nashville.
So you want to grow? You want to grow it? And how many guys do you have right now?
There's 3 of us right now.
Gotcha.
3.5 if you include a part-time person. To answer your question seriously, I don't know. Like I did the EO Catalyst class a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. They helped us put together 3-year projections.
Yeah.
Which I'm about halfway through right now, and everything's going great with it. Mm-hmm. I see us probably at about 5 employees next year. But from there, I don't really know. I just want to. I'm growing this predictably and stably. I'm not trying to overachieve. I'm not overpromising to our clients. I feel like there's a balance of growth and quality, and I'm trying to achieve that at the same time.
Right, and I think like from when we started our business, we were just basically doing it because we wanted a paycheck. Ours was a little different in that we had been. This was in 2008, and the telecom industry was going through a lot of turmoil at that time. Had been going through a lot of turmoil for like the last 10 years, and we had been laid off. My business partner and I had been laid off like twice in 6 months, at no fault of our own, just bad business practice from these companies. And I was like, I think we could do a better job running a business, even though we have no idea what we're doing, than these big name CEOs or whatever that are running these other businesses into the ground. And so, when we started, it was just, we need a paycheck. And it took us a while to get there. And then it was probably 3 to 5 years after we got started before we realized, hey, we kind of have a business here. Now, what do we do with this? And that was, around the time I went through Catalyst as well and learned a whole lot. And that was like a CEO crash course, I call it. I mean, you walk out of that feeling way smarter than you did when you started it. And, with everything we learned from there, we were able to kind of start to figure out what we wanted to do with the business and who we wanted to be when we grew up and that kind of stuff. And it still changes, but it's nice to have an idea and, a direction, some goals to shoot for.
Can I ask you an entrepreneur question?
Absolutely.
And if this is too personal, you don't have to answer it. But when you branched off and started a business, how long did it take you to actually make enough money to support yourself?
It was a good year to get there. I mean, it was, my wife will tell you to this day, she's like, we were taking tomatoes off the list and, living off credit cards and all that stuff to get things going. So it was, and we didn't have a lot of savings either. And I had 2 kids and mortgage and everything. So it was a really scary time when we did all that. But it was about a year before we were started to feel a little bit of, okay, we've got a path to next month. And then it was probably 2 years before we started feeling like, all right, we're doing a little bit better. It's 5 years though of solid work at it before we were like, okay, we're going to make it. Is that close to what you've experienced?
Oh, completely. Yeah. I had a no child for the first 3 years of the business. I don't know how anybody starts a business with children. Like it's just,
oh, it was scary. It was really, really tough.
Yeah, because I tell people, I'm like, you're going to work 4 times harder than you ever have before in your entire life, and you're probably going to make 10 times less than you ever have in your entire life.
Yep. And I had a business partner, so everything came in, we got split. So it was even harder than that, right? So it was an interesting time. But and when we started, we started our business in August of 2008. So what happened in September of 2008?
A little
dip in the recession.
Just a little one.
I remember, and I tell the story all the time, but we were at a big name bank here in town having a meeting about possibly, we were there to talk about, could we get some money to help start things and get things going? And by the time we left, I felt like they wanted our water bottle or the water they gave us back. You know what I mean? They're like, we're not giving you guys any money. And looking back, it was probably a great thing because we learned to just bootstrap and build and start with nothing. And we didn't have any money to spend, so we had to get creative on how we're going to solve problems because you couldn't do it with money, so you had to do it in other ways. So it's probably why we're here today. But it was a really tough time to get started with it. But I always feel like if you're passionate about it, if everything else clicks, the money will come. If everything else makes sense, the money will make sense eventually.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Very, very interesting. So, this podcast is about remote work. You do a lot with small businesses. I'm sure you have a lot of people that want to be able to work remotely from home or wherever they're at. Tell me a little bit how you're seeing that evolve in your customer base.
Well, I feel like it's so hybrid these days.
Yeah.
There's so many people that, there's certain businesses that need and want offices. There's certain businesses that are 100% remote. I have certain clients I've never even met face-to-face before.
Yeah.
Like they're so remote. And then I've got other clients that want to do a combination of the two. Like they see the benefits of having people in the office, but they also see the flexibility of being able to hire anybody anywhere in the country,
Yeah. Where do you see that kind of landing? Do you feel like it's going to be like it's not going to be everybody back in the workplace. That cat's out of the bag. I don't think that's going to ever be where but I don't think it's going to be 100% remote either. I feel like it's going to land in that hybrid, and that's just going to be the nature of work going forward.
I agree. I think it's really going to depend on the business and the industry. Like I was just at a client site yesterday that's in the construction world. And while they do have a lot of people that could work remote, they still have an office that they all reside in. Because information just flows so well. It was so neat seeing like people be like, "Hey, how do I do this? Can you show me something real quick?" Or even just catching up by the metaphorical water cooler, things that you can't really do when you're remote.
Yeah, I think that when I've talked about this a bunch of times, it's that when you have a remote workforce or you want to be able to allow for people to work remotely, culture is super important. And how do you maintain the communication and the connectivity that just happens naturally in an office? How do you keep that going outside of it? And I think that's where we were lucky enough to have an office for a long time. We still have it, but we sublease a lot of it out now. But everybody was used to working together and being here. So when we broke out, it was just kind of an extension, and we were able to jump onto our different platforms that we have to be able to keep the communication up. And, it's all about giving attaboys and, a lot of GIF action. We do a lot of GIFs, on our, we use Workplace by Meta. It's like a private Facebook just for your company. It's like a dumber version of Slack, maybe.
Okay.
You don't have to know all that. So it's just like going on Facebook, but it's all private internally just to your business.
Is there a gift buying element inside that?
No, it's like gifts, the GIF. GIF.
What I thought you meant like
GIF?
presents. Like, we're giving everybody presents all the time.
No, we don't do that. No, it's like, you post something and then, we have a hashtag that we use on everything. It's give good GIF or GIF. Is it GIF or GIF? I always, what do you? I think it's GIF. You GIF? That's what I thought too. But then somebody told me one time, no, it's GIF.
It's GIF.
Is it really? See, that's what I'm saying. And he's smarter than I am.
The inventor of the GIF said it's just pronounced just like the peanut butter.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I've never heard that one. I will make my adjustments accordingly moving forward.
But caveat here, I'm usually wrong about things, so you probably want to double check that.
Well, now I can just say, Justin Ploof over at Mull IT told me it was GIF, and here's why.
There you go. And they're going to believe you.
Yeah. So if somebody comes to you, new customer, and they're like, "Hey, man, I'm wanting to offer that hybrid solution and have people be able to work from home," what are some of the technical things that you suggest to them right out of the bat that's important?
Oh man, Microsoft 365 all day. Like it's just at the core of business for everything that you can do with a remote team, between like file sharing through SharePoint or OneDrive, and no longer needing a domain controller to do things like user profiles and credentials, and communication with teams. Project management with Planner to do. Yeah. I don't know. There's just so much at the core of it. So I don't know. It always, when a client comes to you and asks a question like that, you always got to put the question back on them though, right? Like, what are you doing? What are you trying to accomplish? What kind of tools are you using? So like Microsoft 365 is not right for everyone. Right. But I find in 90% of cases, it does do a really good job. Right. Got you. What are some like things that you've noticed and mistakes that people make when they try to do that? Especially like you started in 2018, so you got to deal with customers through all of that nightmare of COVID and the, hey, we're here today, but tomorrow we're not, and we're all working remote. What were some of the things that you saw pop up and hit that were
that were some issues.
Man, well, here in Nashville, we actually had a little trial run before COVID. I don't know if you remember.
I do, the tornado.
The tornado that came through.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a couple of clients that are over nearby your office here, because you guys are pretty close to the path of that tornado,
Oh,
weren't
yeah,
you?
yeah.
And the fact that they didn't have access to their office for several weeks during the rebuilds, I mean, that was such a great example there of how you need to be ready for these things.
Yeah.
Even if you have an office where people need to come to it, you still need to have that flexibility to where if there is some kind of disaster, you need business continuity to keep going.
Yeah. I don't know if you experienced this. We noticed the big jump from people having stuff at their office to, okay, everything needs to be in the cloud now. That was the moment. If they were fighting it before, they couldn't fight it then. It was like, because we had customers that, lost their building in the tornado. That destroyed everything, and they had all their servers on site and all this stuff. So they had to start from scratch. Luckily, they had backups of some stuff, but not everything. So real nightmare. To after, most people nowadays have everything in the cloud, and it makes it a little bit easier for them to move around. But yeah, it was a very interesting time.
2020 was a great year for digital transformation. A lot of IT conversations got really easy that year, being like, hey, are you prepared for the next tornado?
Yeah.
People go, oh, no, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, we noticed that there's still in our business in the telecom side, there's still a lot of people that have on-premise phone systems, but that gave the example that we always had talked about before as to why you didn't want that. Now we had an actual example that everybody felt and could experience of everybody has a story to tell if they were around at that time of what happened to them when they had their premise-based system, and everybody needed to go home and they really couldn't make that work very well. So it's one of those things where it was a tough time, but I feel like from that we've really grown and gained some ground on the technology side as far as being able to work from anywhere and do what we need to do.
So I'm an IT guy, right? I'm not a natural at sales or anything, and sales was always a bad word when I was growing up.
Sure.
But I found that sales is almost just helping people out by seeing the landscape ahead.
Right.
Being like, hey, I've seen these problems with other people before, and just a heads up, you are susceptible to this problem as well.
Right.
And that's usually a difficult conversation to have with people. They usually just think like, oh, you're trying to upsell me something I don't need. But to go back to the tornado and COVID and everything.
This illustrated it nicely.
It became very real for a lot of people to be like, oh, no, you're not just the sales guy trying to upsell me something in the cloud. The cloud actually makes sense.
Yeah. What's something exciting in your industry that you think is on its way or coming that you like you're thinking about anyway?
Something exciting in my industry. I mean, cybersecurity is
big buzzwords right now around everything security related.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff moving in the right direction for cybersecurity. But it's becoming at the forefront of a lot more people's attention right now. Mm-hmm. But something exciting about it. All right,
so, let's think about this. What about, is there something that you're seeing with the way that, kind of the new normal, is there something you're seeing that's going to be a roadblock if people don't start thinking about it? Like in our industry, it's texting from business phones, where, you had all the robocalls and all this kind of stuff. That's going to start happening on your text. And I'm sure you've noticed you're getting more and more business SMS on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So it's one of those things where we see that being the next big issue in our industry. Is there anything like that on your side?
Well, I kind of want to lean into your point right there. I think the texting in business is going to change a lot, especially with Gen Z coming into the picture where they don't want to necessarily make a phone call.
They don't want to talk to you.
And they don't want to send an email.
They'll keep their hoods down and they want to just do this all day.
Exactly. Little thumb warriors.
Yeah.
Our business phone line can accept text, and a lot of people will just text us out of the blue. And I'm like, ooh, that's very audacious of you to think that.
Yeah.
Us as an IT business can accept text, but all right, let's have a conversation about this.
Yeah. So they have this it's called 10DLC, and it's all around the regulatory side of how to do that. And they're making it very, very difficult, I think they're trying to enforce it. It's almost like the carriers and the big mobile carriers, like T-Mobile's like the big guardian enforcer of all this new texting regulatory stuff. But they make it so complicated, and it's so to just do one-to-one texting from a business phone to a customer is almost, I mean, it's really hard to do. There isn't a legal way to do it. It's all based on marketing. And no matter if you're just replying to somebody who texted your business, you want to reply back, that's a marketing campaign that has to be registered, branded. They have to, do background checks on you and all this stuff. And if you don't go through that hassle and somebody complains, the fines are outrageous. I mean, it's just crazy. And the regulations on it right now, they're changing every couple weeks. They'll go in and make an adjustment or whatever. So it's spawned this whole other industry around the regulatory side of texting and how to prepare for all of that, what needs to happen. So they got rules like you can't mention guns, drugs, or anything of any kind, right? Oh, it makes total sense. Well, what if you have a pharmacy? You can get in trouble for that. You can actually get in trouble if you have a pharmacy and you're talking about a sale on a drug, no matter what it is. If you own a gun store and you're talking about, hey, we've got discounts on, Glocks or whatever, be careful. You can't do that because you get in trouble for that. And it's not small numbers. It's big numbers. So it's interesting how we try to, how the industry tries to take care of it. It's almost like they're making it so messy because they want the FCC to step in and take over and do something about it. It's interesting.
Do you have a theory on like when you think it's going to settle down, like when they actually will have a conclusion that I should investigate to see whatever became of it?
I think we're still a good year or so out. I think a lot of it now is they're trying to build the corral to keep everybody in it. And until the corral gets full, they're not going to know where the weaknesses are on it. So until the texting from business lines starts to really step up and they get enough volume that they can start to see the issues, I don't think it's probably at least a year out, I would guess.
They've got a weird catch-22 right now. Like the fact that they're being so nuanced about it makes me not want to do business texting.
And we tell all of our customers, not to. And we were like, really, why do you want to do it? We dig in deep as to what you're looking for because there's not a good way to, and the regular, like I said, the regulatory around changes so much. Like they even changed the amounts. Let's say you have 500 customers that you want to be able to send out through a platform and hit them all at once. Well, the max number you can send out at any given time is 250. Do 251, it's like $2,000 to $3,000 fine per over. And this is all fine print that as a business owner, you don't know. And your carrier's the one, and if they're not on it all the time, they don't necessarily know. So like my business partner just happens to be one of those guys that reads a lot and is really into that and knows those rules and gets all the updates. And so we kind of know what's happening there. But if you don't have somebody like that, you're not paying a company to give you that information, you can get yourself and your customers in trouble really quickly.
Yeah, that's scary.
It is scary. But like I said, I think it's going to be a year or two down the road before they eventually figure out, all right, we need to have a simple one-on-one versus marketing. Because to me, there is a difference in that. If you're texting me because you have a question and you're my customer, that's one thing. If I'm spamming you and hitting your texting inbox with a bunch of crap you didn't ask for, that's another thing, right? But there is no difference between that right now. Those are the same. They're treated the same. So until they figure out how to separate those out, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, we had to fill something out with our phone vendor maybe 6 months ago that asked us those questions, and it had these categories of like, how do you use SMS for your business?
Yep.
That wasn't an option.
Nope.
Like I even emailed our support and I was like, hey, we just respond to people when they message us, but that's not an option here. And they're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. So what they basically have to do is they have to go in and just put something in there that there's a couple things that are kind of general, type answers you can put in. And that's kind of what people have to do now to be able to do that. And if you're really a rule follower, it's not comfortable to do.
So can I go back to your last question though?
Yeah.
I thought of something that it's, cutting edge in our industry that's very exciting. But
Okay.
it's going to sound cliche, but it's all the AI stuff going on right now.
Yeah, well, it's everywhere, right?
It's everywhere. I find it a joke too, because AI is such a broad term and AI has been around us for so long. Like so many of our vendors had AI offerings for a long time, but now they're actually like officially branding it that way.
Well, they had a consumer product that people could consume with ChatGPT and that kind of stuff. So now all of a sudden the everyday person can use it and understand what its usage is. So now it's exploding, right? And there's so much more to it than that. But like, it's almost like everybody's want to know, well, how can I use AI in my business now? How can I do this? How can I do that? And it's just so broad. And I think it's interesting, as to what's available. What are some of the ways you're seeing it and using it?
Well, ChatGPT in terms of employee output is just everybody's doing that across the board.
Sure.
Whether it's writing a difficult email, making professional marketing material, reviewing something that you're going to broadcast, like if I was a copywriter, I'd be very scared of my job, right?
Right.
Because it makes the process of creating the human language just so much easier.
Yeah. We've noticed it like on the sales and marketing side too, where you start to see these emails and they start sounding all the same. And that's because they're all generated through AI and they're putting in the same questions and getting it back out again. My salespeople use it a lot too, but we always tell them just use it as a good starting point and then go in and personalize it and change it up. It helps get the ball rolling, but don't just cut and paste.
Well, you can get it to speak in your voice. Mm-hmm. Do you pay for a subscription for it?
I don't. I don't really use it though. My people in the company do, but I don't.
They just announced this last week that they're coming out with a business subscription, so teams
cool.
of people can have it, and you can watch over and manage how everybody uses
That'll
it.
Be good.
But with a paid subscription right now, like I pay for that, it's like $20 a month or something for the premium. But with it, you can give it a predefined explanation of who you are and what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, what I did was I gave it some input. I was like, here's a bunch of emails that I've typed up. How would you describe my writing style? And it said, oh, well, you're semi-casual, you're concise, and you're something else. I used another word. Mm-hmm. And so I put that into my predefined profile with ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. And now everything that it outputs for me is really close to my voice. I still have to go in there and tweak everything, but it gets me there a lot faster.
That's really cool. We in our business, what they've started doing is they're using AI to do a lot of the busy work that took more time in the past. So, for example, we have a tool it's on our systems where you go in, you put your website in, and it goes in, it scrapes your website, and it then creates messaging, on-hold messaging and auto attendance and everything from what it sees there.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really cool. And then you can choose, I want it to be in this voice or do this or, whatever. And 2 minutes in and you've got all your auto attendance built out.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it's super cool. And then you can change it and do what you need to do down the road. So there is a lot of neat stuff coming with that. And it's exciting to see if they use it right, and how it's used. It could be a really cool tool, but it still is just another tool, right?
Can I tell you about the coolest thing I've done with it recently?
Yes, please.
So I used it to help create a job posting. Mm-hmm. But then I've had this idea in my head for a while that I've never really been able to force myself not to procrastinate on. And ChatGPT helped me out with this within a matter of minutes. So I gave it my job posting. Mm-hmm. And then I also fed it this MSP industry report on different job titles, pay ranges, skill sets involved at each level. And I said, hey, take my job posting, take this industry report, and I want you to create a salary bonus structure for my company. I want you to tell me which certifications are relevant for the skills that I'm looking for and things happening in the industry. And I want you to assign a dollar value for what kind of salary bump or bonus should be included with those. And it was good. Yeah, the output was almost perfect. I tweaked it maybe 1%, and I was like, I can't believe it just did this so quickly. And I went through and double checked all the certifications. I was like, okay, these are all legitimate, and the value that's assigned to these is relevant. And yeah, it was absolutely perfect.
Oh, that's so cool. That's a really cool idea. Mm-hmm. I'll have to play with that one. That's a good one. I
think it's to kind of your point where when you feed it certain things, you can get really creative in what it can do for you.
Yeah. I noticed I had it when I got in, I don't play with it very often, but when I went in, I was like, well, hey, write me an email to invite guests to a podcast about business. And it gave me the first thing. I was like, okay, now I got a little bit more specific and a little bit more specific. And then it just adjusted so quickly to what I was wanting until I kind of got in sync with it. And it gave me this great email that I was able to, that I can use to send out to invite people on the show. It did, I had it write me a commercial about X, and it not only did it write it, but it was fade in, this is the music that's playing, and and I was like, holy crap, this thing is really detailed. This is really kind of cool. So I mean, it's neat to see what it does, and it's very cool. Well, hey man, listen, before we wrap up, I just want to thank you so much for being on. I'm glad we finally made this happen and we're able to get you on the show. And thank you for sharing your experience. How can everybody find you? And if they want to be a Mull IT customer, what do they need to do?
We have a website. It's mull-it.com. There's a contact form on the website. Go check out, see what we're all about. Give us a shout if you need something, but we're here for you.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you being on the show. Again, this is it for another episode of The Wandering Worker. Hope you've enjoyed hearing from Justin today. I've enjoyed it. It's been a good conversation. We'd like to also thank again our sponsor, Magic Apple, for bringing this episode today. If you're not thrilled with your business phone system or your work at home experience, give us a shout. We've been helping people just like you since 2008. Again, I'm Matt Lloyd. Until next time, enjoy your week.